The rain came down in thick, unforgiving sheets, blurring the already dim streetlights as I pulled into the mortuary's lot. Had never felt so dark. Willow Lakewood Mortuary loomed like a forgotten tombstone, its grand yet decaying facade barely illuminated by a flickering neon sign. There were no visitors tonight. There rarely were at this hour. But apparently there were tasks to be done, which is why I'd accepted this job in the first place. I'd always been a night owl, and Mr. Barlow said it was easy money for those willing to follow the rules. As I walked in, the air smelled of bleach, and something else, something faint and sour, like damp cloth left in a basement. Mr. Barlow was waiting for me in the lobby, his hands folded neatly behind his back, his face illuminated just enough to give me a clear view of his nearly skeletal features. He was the kind of old man who made you wonder how long he'd been in the business of death. There was something timeless about him, as if he'd been standing in that very spot for 100 years, waiting. "Welcome to Willow Lake," he said, handing me a thin, crumpled piece of paper. "These are the rules. Follow them precisely. Break them." He trailed off, his dark eyes meeting mine with an intensity that sent a shiver down my spine. I unfolded the paper, glancing down at the hurried, spidery handwriting. The first rule caught my attention immediately. Rule 1. Keep the mortuary doors locked. Do not let anyone in, no matter who they say they are. "Is this for real?" I asked, half laughing. Mr. Barlow didn't smile. "The rules are older than this building," he said simply. "Older than me, and likely older than the town. Treat them with respect, and they'll treat you the same." I nodded, though my pulse had quickened. I'd never been one to buy into superstition, but there was a gravity in his voice that made me pause. With a wave, Mr. Barlow left, his shadow trailing like smoke, leaving me alone with the mortuary's silence. And the rules? Once Mr. Barlow left, the mortuary felt even quieter, as if it was holding its breath. I stood alone in the lobby, clutching the list of rules he had handed me, watching his shadow disappear down the rain-slick street. The mortuary door clicked shut, and a deadbolt slid into place, leaving me sealed in for the night. I reminded myself it was just a job, an easy gig. Really, and for the kind of money Mr. Barlow was paying, I could follow if the few quirky rules. I glanced down at the list again, reading each line more carefully this time. Rule 1. Keep the mortuary doors locked. Do not let anyone in, no matter who they say they are. Rule 2. Cover all mirrors by 3:15. Avoid looking into them afterward. Rule 3. Ignore any whispering from the embalming room. Do not open the door until the voices stop. Rule 4. Do not enter room 3 after, even if the lights turn on by themselves. Rule 5. Ring the bell at the front desk once every hour to keep them away. I frowned. This couldn't be serious. But every time I told myself it was some kind of joke, I thought back to Mr. Barlow's hollow gaze and the way he'd spoken with such finality, as if these rules were as unbreakable as the laws of gravity. I tucked the list into my pocket and went to explore the mortuary. The place was dimly lit, and the layout was maze-like, full of narrow hallways and sharp turns. The walls were lined with framed photos of stern-looking men and women from decades past. Some of their eyes seemed to follow me as I walked, their gaze cold and unblinking, reminding me of the story I'd heard about Willow Lake Mortuary back when I was a kid. Something about how people said it was built on cursed ground. I took a deep breath. It was just a building, nothing more, I told myself. The first hour passed uneventful. I busied myself with small tasks like checking the supply closets and making sure the embalming room was tidy, though I felt a prickling on the back of my neck every time I was near the door. There was no sound, no voices, but something about that room made me feel like someone was standing just behind me, watching. Still, I brushed it off. I wasn't about to let myself get spooked by a bunch of dusty old rooms. Exactly 1 hour in, I remembered rule #5. Ring the bell at the front desk once every hour to keep them away. I chuckled nervously. Keep them away, I muttered, rolling my eyes. Reached for the small brass bell sitting atop the front desk and gave it a ring. The chime echoed through the empty mortuary, sounding almost musical, or maybe mocking. My laugh sounded small in the emptiness, and for a moment I wondered if anyone had heard it. Suddenly, I heard a soft knock at the door. My heart skipped a beat. It was late, too late for anyone to be dropping by. I looked toward the front entrance, the rain cascading down the windows in sheets, distorting the outside world into murky shadows. The knock came again, louder this time, followed by a voice. "Hey, I'm locked out. Can you let me in?" Voice was faint but unmistakable. A woman's voice, tight with irritation. I reached for the door, almost out of habit, then froze. Rule 1 echoed in my mind. Do not let anyone in, no matter who they say they are. But I knew I was the only one here tonight. Who could possibly be out there? Another knock. "Please, it's freezing out here." Her voice sounded familiar, and a memory tickled at the back of my mind. It sounded like my sister, Claire, but Claire was in another state, wasn't she? I hadn't spoken to her in years. Not since she'd left after what happened. It couldn't be her. It had to be some trick of the mind. A way of rationalizing the absurdity of someone standing in the rain at a mortuary door in the dead of night. Still, I felt a strange pull, like the door itself was urging me to open it, to just crack it and see who was out there. But as my hand neared the handle, I felt something wrong. A pressure built in the air around me, like something cold and heavy pressing against my skin. And that voice came back, clearer now, but wrong somehow. There was a softness to it, breathy quality that made my skin crawl. "Alex," it whispered, my name stretching out in a slow hiss. "Let me in." I staggered back, stumbling over my own feet in my rush to get away from the door. My heart hammered against my ribcage, and I watched as the handle rattled. But the door stayed closed. Whatever was on the other side gave up after a few more attempts, the last knock fading into silence. The rest of the night was quiet, but I was on edge, every small sound sending a jolt through me. When my watch beeped at 3:15, my stomach sank. Rule 2. Cover all mirrors by 3:15. Avoid looking into them after. I gathered a stack of dark cloths from the closet, my hands shaking as I moved through the mortuary. The first mirror I approached was an old, tarnished thing hanging in the hallway by the embalming room. It was cracked down the middle, giving my reflection a ghostly, fragmented appearance. For a moment, I thought I saw something moving in the background of the reflection, something shadowy, shifting just out of sight. My fingers numb, and I tore my gaze away, draping the cloth over the mirror in one quick motion. The others went smoothly enough, but when I reached the large, floor-length mirror in the lobby, my heart stopped. There, in the dim light, I saw a shape, standing behind me. It was faint, barely there, but unmistakably human. A tall figure with hollow, staring eyes, its mouth stretched into a grotesque grin. I felt cold, the kind of cold that sinks into your bones, and my limbs went stiff. "Don't look," I reminded myself, forcing myself to focus on my own face, to ignore the thing that seemed to be breathing down my neck. But as I lifted the cloth to cover the mirror, the figure whispered in a voice as soft as spider silk, "I see you." I slapped the cloth over the mirror, and the voice stopped. My heart pounded in my chest as I took a step back, unwilling to turn around for fear that it might be standing there, inches away. I left the lobby, leaving the cloth-covered mirror behind like a tombstone, a marker of something I couldn't understand, something that might still be watching me from behind the thin veil of cloth. A sudden tapping from the embalming room brought me back to reality. The noise was faint, but persistent, like someone drumming their fingers against wood. Rule 3 flooded my mind again. Ignore any whispering from the embalming room. Do not open the door until the voices stop. My instincts told me to open the door, to peek inside and see if there was anyone, playing a prank on me. But the memory of the voice at the front door held me back. I pressed my ear to the door, listening. The tapping stopped, and in its place, I heard a faint, breathy whisper. "Let me out." A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. The voice was soft, almost pleading, but there was a darkness to it, something that made my skin crawl. I backed away slowly, my eyes glued to the door, waiting for anything, to come crashing through. But nothing did. The whispering faded, leaving only silence. But I knew then that I wasn't alone. By 3:45, the mortuary had settled into an oppressive silence, broken only by my footsteps as I moved cautiously down the long hallway. My mind reeled with what had just happened, the rattling doorknob, the shadows in the mirror, the whispering. It all seemed like some half-forgotten nightmare, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. Maybe something was waiting. Then I saw it. Door to room 3 had been off limits in the initial tour, dismissed by Mr. Barlow as storage. Now, it sat at the end of the hall, half shrouded in darkness. Dim light of the exit sign barely illuminated it, casting shadows that seemed to shift with every passing second. Rule 4's warning echoed in my head. Do not enter room 3 after 4, even if the lights turn on by themselves. I checked my watch. 3:58? Closer I got, the heavier the air seemed to become. Each step toward the door felt like wading through thick, freezing water. My breath misted in front of me, and a deep chill settled into my bones, despite the warm air of the mortuary then. Without warning, a light clicked on from inside room 3. A faint, yellowish glow spilled out from beneath the door, and I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. The light seemed to hum, vibrating with an energy that made the hair on my arms stand on end. I took a step back. Do not enter room 3. My mind screamed the rule at me, but something, curiosity or maybe sheer terror, kept me rooted to the spot. The light flickered, casting strange shadows that danced along the door frame. A muffled voice drifted through the wood, low and indistinct, as if someone was whispering from far away. I strained to hear, catching only fragments, enough to recognize a tone of pleading, of fear. My hand hovered over the doorknob, every instinct telling me to open it, to just see. But rule 4 echoed louder. Do not enter. I forced myself to turn away, my legs shaking as I backed down the hall. With every step, the whispers grew fainter, the light dimmer, until the hallway was once again swallowed by darkness. I hurried back to the front desk, unwilling to look back, half expecting to see the door swing open of its own accord. As I reached the desk, I checked my watch. Again. For weight of exhaustion had started to settle on me, pressing down on my eyelids and filling my limbs with lead. I leaned against the desk, glancing around at the quiet mortuary, now cloaked in an almost unnatural stillness. There was no sound, not even the hum of electricity, no creaks from the settling building. It was as though the entire mortuary was holding its breath. And then I remembered I'd forgotten to ring the bell. My hand shot to the bell, my fingers brushing against the cold brass. I struck it, the sharp sound reverberating through the empty space. For a moment, the noise was comforting, like a lifeline tethering me to reality. But then, in thin distance, a faint thump echoed from the embalming room. I froze, staring down the hallway toward the closed door. The sound came again, louder this time, rhythmic, like footsteps approaching from within. Each beat seemed to pulse through the air, vibrating against my skin, amplifying the silence between each echo. My heart pounded in my chest, matching the rhythm of the thumps. The embalming room door creaked, opening just a fraction, as though someone or something was pressing against it from the other side. I took a step back, my mind scrambling for any logical explanation. It had to be a draft, or maybe Mr. Barlow had returned early. But as I watched, I saw something move, a flicker of shadow slipping through the small opening. It wasn't human. The figure was too tall, too thin, its limbs elongated and unnatural. Alex. It was the same voice from the front door, stretched and distorted, like a whisper pulled through broken glass. Come here, please. My body felt paralyzed, each muscle frozen with a terror I couldn't shake. The figure edged closer, slipping halfway through the door, its face hidden in shadow, but I could see its eyes. Hollow, dark pits that seemed to bore straight through me. The bell on the desk let out another chime, unprompted, the sound echoing through the room like a death knell. The figure recoiled, shrinking back into the shadows, its body twisting in unnatural ways as it slipped back into the embalming room. The door clicked shut behind it, and silence fell once again. The hours that followed were a blur of terror and exhaustion. I rang the bell every hour, counting the minutes until dawn, clinging to each chime like it was the only thing tethering me to the real world. The whispers faded, and the air seemed to grow warmer as the first light of morning crept through the windows. When the clock struck 7, I felt a surge of relief wash over me. I'd made it. The night was over. The front door clicked open, and Mr. Barlow entered, his expression unreadable as he looked me over. He seemed almost disappointed, his gaze lingering on the faint tremor in my hands. "The pallor of my face," he said, his voice soft, almost approving. "Most don't make it through their first night." I stared at him, my mind too numb to respond. The horrors of the night still etched into my mind. He handed me an envelope, his fingers cold against mine. "Consider it a bonus and a reminder. The rules are not suggestions, Alex. They're survival." I took the envelope, glancing at the crumpled list in my other hand, the rules etched in spidery handwriting that seemed to burn into my mind. "And one more thing, Mr. Barlow added, his voice dropping to a whisper. You remembered to cover all the mirrors, didn't you?" My heart stopped, the memory of the mirror in the storage room flashing through my mind. The one I'd skipped, telling myself I'd come back to it later. A small oversight in a night full of terror. Mr. Barlow's expression darkened, a shadow falling over his eyes. Then, "I suppose we'll see you again tonight," as he turned to leave. I felt a chill settle into my bones, a familiar weight of dread that told me, in no uncertain terms, the night was far from over. The daylight, hours passed in a blur, with every tick of the clock inching me closer to my return shift at Willow Lake Mortuary. I couldn't shake Mr. Barlow's last words. "Then, I suppose we'll see you again tonight." His warning about the mirrors gnawed at me, but I held on to the hope that maybe he was just trying to rattle me. But that sliver of hope evaporated as I stepped back into the mortuary that night. Mr. Barlow was nowhere to be seen. Instead, a single piece of paper lay on the front desk, the ink still wet. My hand trembled as I reached for it, feeling a strange chill seep into my fingers the moment I touched it. The paper was blank, save for a single, ominous line written in dark, slanting handwriting. "Tonight, rules are different." My heart thudded painfully as I flipped the paper over, hoping for some clue or explanation. But nothing. I was alone with a single cryptic message and an overwhelming sense of dread. I took a deep breath, glancing down the dull, empty hall. My instincts told me to turn around, leave, and never come back. But curiosity mixed with fear held me in place, and I took a few cautious steps forward, peering into the dimly lit hallway. That's when I saw it. A shadow moving against the wall, stretching and shifting. Though no one was there, I forced myself to focus, and slowly, shapes began to appear. On the wall, in faint, flickering letters, were new rules, etched in a liquid darkness that seemed to pulse as I read. New Rules 1. At midnight, return to room 3. The door will open for you. 2. Once inside, take the candle from the shelf and light it. Do not let it go out. 3. At precisely 12:15, look into the mirror and repeat the following. "See you, you are mine." 4. Do not cover the mirrors tonight. 5. The bell is useless now. They will find you. A cold sweat broke out on my skin. The mortuary was now silent, the kind of silence that presses in, making each breath feel heavier. I wanted to scream, to run, but my legs wouldn't move. The clock on the wall chimed softly. Midnight. Driven by some unnatural force, I found myself standing in front of room 3. The door, which had remained locked the night before, was slightly ajar, casting a sliver of yellowish light into the hallway. As I stepped forward, the door creaked open, as if it had been waiting for me. Inside, the room was dimly lit, an old-fashioned candle flickering on a shelf by the far wall. The air was thick with the scent of smoke and something else. a coppery smell that turned my stomach. Shadows danced along the walls, shifting with each flicker of the candle's flame. I reached for the candle, my fingers grazing the cold, smooth wax. A surge of dread pulsed through me, but I forced myself to lift it. It felt strangely heavy, as though it was weighed down by something unseen. I struck a match, watching as the flame flickered to life. Then, as if responding to the light, a large mirror materialized on the wall opposite me. My reflection stared back at me, but it was wrong. There was something off about the eyes, hollow and dark, like they held secrets I could never understand. Checked my watch. 12:14, 12:15. I swallowed hard, the words written on the wall searing themselves into my mind. I see you, you are mine. Words slipped from my mouth, each syllable thick and heavy, as though I was speaking I didn't fully understand. The moment the words left my lips, the reflection in the mirror shifted. My face remained the same, but behind me, in the darkness, a figure began to take shape. Tall and twisted, with arms that stretched too long and eyes like hollow pits. The figure leaned closer, its breath cold against my neck, and whispered, "Now, you see." The candle flickered, and for a moment the light dimmed. My reflection's mouth opened in a silent scream, a soundless horror etched into my own features. Then, as the candle flared back to life, my reflection reached through the glass, its hand grasping for me, fingers stretching and distorting as they broke through the barrier of the mirror. Stumbled backward, nearly dropping the candle, my eyes locked on the figure that was now clawing its way out of the mirror. Its fingers were sharp, like jagged glass, and its body twisted and writhing as it struggled to free itself from the confines of the reflection. I turned to run, but the room stretched around me, the door seeming miles away. My footsteps echoed in the empty space, and the whispers grew louder, filling the air with words I couldn't understand. Words that seemed to crawl beneath my skin, burrowing deep into my mind. I crashed into the hallway, heart pounding, only to find the other mirrors in the mortuary uncovered, each one reflecting different versions of me, twisted and distorted. Some had hollow eyes, others wore expressions of despair, fear, or anger, their hands pressed against the glass, as though begging for freedom. The shadows on the wall began to move. Stretching and shifting, merging together to form a single, towering figure. It loomed over me, its presence cold and suffocating, its gaze fixed on me with a hunger that sent shivers down my spine. The candle's flame flickered, dimming as the figure leaned closer. I clutched it tightly, the only barrier between me and the darkness closing in a desperate bid for survival. I raised the candle, its flame casting a brief glow over the figure's face. It was my own face. A twisted, hollow version of myself stared back at me, its mouth stretched into a sinister smile. "Welcome," it whispered, its voice echoing in my mind. "You're one of us now." The candle sputtered, its flame flickering one last time before going out, plunging the room into darkness. In that moment, I felt the walls closing around me, felt the presence of the shadows pressing against me, merging with my own body, my own soul. And then silence. When dawn broke, the mortuary was empty. Mr. Barlow arrived to find the front desk unattended, mirrors uncovered, each one reflecting nothing but an empty room. He smiled, a slow, knowing smile, and placed a fresh list of rules on the desk, waiting for the next night shift worker to arrive. Somewhere within the mortuary, a faint whisper echoed, a voice familiar yet distant, repeating a single phrase over and over. "I see you. You are mine. I see you. You are mine." And deep within the mirrors, trapped in the endless reflections, a figure watched and waited, forever bound to the mortuary, a part of its haunted soul.